Hey, beautiful people. Welcome to the TSW Network channel. I'm DC Constant, founder of the Successful Wives Network, and we're here to inspire, encourage, and equip women to thrive in marriage, business, and in life. So if you're a wife, a future wife, or simply a woman on a mission, you're in the right place. Thank you for liking, commenting, and subscribing to this channel. Thank you to those who have supported our channel via your donations. We appreciate you. Now let's get into it. Hey, successful wives. Welcome to TSW Network, where we elevate wives globally to thrive in marriage, business, and in life. I'm your host, DC Constant, and backed by popular demand is Man Thought Mondays, where we focus on thought provoking topics around love, leadership, legacy, and the struggles and strengths of today's modern men. My co host today is author and minister John Michael Thomas. Today, our topic is Black Brotherhood. Hey, and the importance of community. Hey, John Michael, how are
Hey, how are
you?
you? Good. How are you?
I am doing well. So, Black Brotherhood. Black Brotherhood. When I think of brotherhood, I think about you guys' trust, loyalty among each other. Why is brotherhood so important, especially what's going on in this country today?
hmm
Um, Everything being stricken, our culture, different things. Why is it so important today for Black brotherhood?
Yeah, I think that let me just say this. I think that the African American race as a whole has a lot of challenges to it. Um, and I think that, so one of the things we have to do is for the betterment of our people is we need to find ways to come together. We need to find ways to strengthen one another. We need to find solutions to some of the plights that we find ourselves in. And so I think that a lot of times, you know, it is sometimes hard for Black men to find brotherhood in places and find the support that they need from other brothers. And to be honest, a lot of men won't verbally say this, but the support and validation from other men is an important thing. And so I think that it's important because you know I'll say it this way. I had a group of friends who, we're believers. We're want to be kingdom men. We're family men. We all understand some things that are one unique to manhood, and then two unique to Black manhood. When I say Black manhood, I just kind of mean like, for instance, at work, sometimes. Um, I don't think that other races realize what it's like to be a minority in certain places. And I remember having a conversation with a person that was, Caucasian, and then they didn't realize that we what we call code switch at work. And they were talking about the conversation started because they were talking about LeBron James, and they were saying how he speaks, ineloquently and things like that, and all of that. I said, well, we talk like that at home. I said, that's Ebonics. I said, we when we come to work, we use the King's English and all this grandiloquence, you know what I mean, that y'all want to hear. I said, but that is part of just how we talk passed down from generation to generation. And there's a right way to speak Ebonics too. You know what I mean? There's certain things we don't say, he be doing, be going, be doing, they think that's all that, we say. But man, like we have a way that we talk, you know what I mean? And all of that. And so like to be understood Um, I think we need a place to be understood. I think we need a place to go to express our thoughts and our feelings. And I think that we need to, have that support that, other brothers are going through it, but other brothers are making it and other brothers are encouraging you. Because sometimes you can't really talk to your wife about everything. And even your wife may not get it, may not understand. And so I think it's very important that we have that, and then sometimes just to blow off steam and just to be able to laugh about things. You'll find some of the greatest, at least brotherhood for the moment, in barbershops. We will
Okay.
laugh, crack up, have, you know what I mean? They're gonna talk about women, you know what I mean? They're gonna talk about the Bible, they're gonna talk about, kids, they're gonna talk about everything. But sometimes you just need that time with the brothers. It's important.
I totally agree with that. So, thinking about how you were raised, thinking about your father's generation and your grandfather's generation, do you believe Black men are taught how to build healthy friendships with other men? Why or why not?
I don't think that many times we're let me speak from just from what I see, at least as a historical standpoint. I feel like now, and especially with the rise of um, gangster rap and all of the rap that seems to be pretty hardcore, meaning that we talk about guns and we talk about women, um, we talk about what we gonna do if somebody disrespect us and the ops and all of that. But half of the time when we're talking about that stuff, we are talking about other Black men. And so I think, sometimes, we are always finding ways to beef with one another if we feel disrespected and all of that kind of stuff instead of, back, I remember when I was younger in the 90s, there was more of a sense of pro-blackness. The movie Malcolm X came out and people wearing cross color and, you know what I mean, wearing X's and, people were, Queen Latifah was out. She wore the Queen Latifah hat and everything. And you know
You're
what I
right.
mean?
Right.
Yeah, you had Father MC, be a father to your
Yeah.
child. I feel like there was more support for doing a good thing and being, kind to each other and helping each other and being a unit. But I feel like kind of when that era came in, it just kind of wiped a lot of that out. And so music is kind of the voice of a generation sometimes, and it kind of just tells you where we are. I think that probably when my father was growing up, they probably, in some ways did have more friendship, camaraderie. I think that though now it goes lacking, and part of that is the reason why I think a lot of Black men gravitate towards gangs and fraternities. Divine Nine and Masons and all of that. And don't get me wrong, I'm not just here to knock. I'm just saying that people find, and even Black Hebrew Israelites, you know what I mean? People are finding places to belong. And I think that, a lot of times, they haven't had that and they're looking for that. And so we see that more and more these days, I believe. Um, yeah, that's
Yeah.
it. I think we see it more now.
So let's talk about sometimes maybe there can be a connection due to some past hurt and betrayal. How does betrayal, competition, or a crabs and a barrel mentality damage brotherhood in our community?
Yeah. Well, I think one thing too, like your first, male to male relationship a lot of times is with your father. Now, if you didn't grow up with your father, sometimes it's hard to really, know what it is to be a man, to know what it is, how to interact with other men. You know what I mean? And so, I think that a lot of times, because we're macho and we, all of that, we're in competition with each other. And even going back to the music, everybody's talking about what they got compared to what other people got, and these people jealous because of what I got, and you know what I mean, and all of this, and I'll do whatever I need to do to get it, and all of that kind of stuff. And I think that kind of mentality is hurtful to us. And I think that, really, I wish some of more of the influential people and powers that be would kind of talk against it or try to put music out that was more positive, because you may be like, well, music doesn't make you do this or make you do that. But what I find is it is uh slow but consistent indoctrination, the
Yeah.
ways that we listen to things, and it just gets in your spirit, to be honest, and it becomes who you are, and so what a lot of cultures, they're listening to the music, but it's just entertainment for them. For us, it is a mentality, and it's cultivating and reinforcing mentalities, which is unfortunately, to you know uh fortunately it hurts us, I feel like, as a people. I will say too, as far as crabs in a barrel mentality is, you know, you can't just applaud people, and say they're doing something great. You know what I mean? Or join it to be part of it. I see a lot of us don't want to work together to make things, great. And then we see somebody doing something, we're gonna talk against it. They just this, they, they ain't as good as they think they are, blah blah blah. But man, like really, when you think of what we could do to be more successful, one of the things is partnering and networking. And
Yeah.
some guys are, uh, friends of mine. We got together, we bought a house and rehabbed it and did all that together and doubled our money and all of that, and that was great. You know what I mean? But it's something we couldn't have done individually on our own. But think about if people would get together and they would do that. That would be make things so much better. And as far as betrayal is concerned, I do think that, like, well, you're gonna experience betrayal at some point in your life from, it may, you don't know who it's gonna come from, but you can't let that jade you from having other meaningful relationships. I think you'll do yourself a disservice to do that. But you also have to, try your best to be around people with the character that, you know, you don't run into those kinds of people. So, um, yeah, we need to have friends, but we need to vet our friends that we have. You know what I mean? Don't just run along with people. Um, just because you think they can help you get money or whatever the case would be. Just you need to find, character is a big thing for me. So
So, oh no, that is so true. What so let's go back to like the music, people's environment. What role does that play? And what role does trauma play, both personally and generationally, play into how black men relate to each other? So for instance, I made a little black boy, may grew up in the suburbs, another black boy grew up on the other side of the tracks. And this is not to say kids in the suburbs don't listen to that music, but I'm saying how does that play into how they relate to each other?
yeah, I think there is sometimes, to me, an undercurrent of distrust. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And so what ends up happening, I see, is if you look at the statistics, roughly 90% of black people, especially black men, are killed by black men. And, for us to be only 13% of the population, we make up 50% of the violent crime. But those crimes are committed against other black people. You know what I mean? And so, like, I think that the proliferation of like these mentalities, through music, it just, again, that's the indoctrination that, I guarantee you this: when there's a drive-by, and there's music in the car, I can tell you what they listening to before they go do the drive by. And it ain't Prince and it ain't Michael Jackson. You know what I'm
Hey,
saying?
Mary had a little lamb.
Yeah, it's a mentality that comes with that, and I think that we got to be careful about that. But also, I think that because a lot of us, 73% of Black people are born out of wedlock. A lot of people don't have their fathers around, and it doesn't mean you don't have your father around because you're born out of wedlock or whatever. They could be around, but when you have absentee fatherism, you know what I mean, and then you have fathers that are present, but they're still absent. You know what I mean? And, I think previous generations, fathers weren't very vocal in saying, I love you and stuff like that. And, you know what I mean? So it's like you don't know how to express appreciation for other men. You don't know how to, you know what I mean? Like, make another man feel loved because when you think about that, they'd be like, man, that sounds gay to me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, it doesn't mean you're gay because you care about, a friend or somebody else, but we were never really taught how to display a healthy, heterosexual affection toward other guys or, to support them or to, what I'm saying, have that kind of camaraderie. So I think that's difficult. But I think, you know, I'm hopeful that as time goes on, we do have more of that. But we really, I think half of the problems that we have starts with the home and starts with repairing the Black family. And so I think that the more we do that, the more we'll be able to have better outcomes in our brotherhood, relationships with other men, relationships with our women, relationships in marriages, in society and the workplace, all of those things. The statistics get better on everything when fathers are there and when a family is intact. So I'm hoping that happens. I pray that it does.
I believe the narrative is shifting because when I'm on social media, I follow I think it's called Fathers Matters fatherhood page, and it's showing um, all these beautiful black men, with their children and different things like that. So I definitely believe that needle has moved because I'm personally am seeing more on social media these positive images with these black men with their children and telling their sons they love them, and but they're
Hmm.
sharing what you just shared. They didn't grow up like that.
Hmm.
They did not grow up like that at all, so they want to break that. They hug their kid, and they give him a kiss on the forehead, rub his head. They let their sons know they love them even though they never received that.
Hmm.
They knew dad loved them,
Hmm.
but it was that you don't touch, you don't do
Yeah.
that.
Hmm.
But they would give us their daughters, they give their sisters,
Hmm.
love in that way, in that affectionate way.
Hmm.
Okay. I believe it's moving. It's really a beautiful thing to see when you see it, in a positive light on social media,
Well, to
like
be
that.
honest, my father was a lot older than me. He was 48 years older than me, and he passed away now, but and he was a great father. But
Yes.
when I look back, I can't really tell you. I heard him say I love you a lot before, like I went away to college. I feel like as he got older, you know, the way and he would always say that later, you know what I'm saying, and stuff like that. So I just think sometimes maybe it came with age or stage or whatever. I don't know, but I think that a lot of people didn't grow up like that, and he didn't have his father at all. You know what I mean? And so I think that it's important, though. It means a lot to the kids whether they say it or not. You know what I mean? But
It,
I'm glad that it's happening now, and I think maybe he just recognized the need for it. You know what I mean, or whatever the case was. But I mean, previous generations definitely that wasn't a thing. You know what I mean? You
Mm-mm.
know I love you. Like it's like that movie Fences with Denzel Washington. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Why don't you like me? Don't worry about me liking you. You
You,
know you worry about me doing right by you. You know all that stuff. You know it was really like that. You know.
yeah, yeah.
So
And I mean, you here, you got food on the table, roof
right,
over your head. That is love.
right,
Like I do love
right,
you. If I ain't love you, I wouldn't be here. You wouldn't,
right,
we'd be homeless. So,
right, right.
no, absolutely. But it is a beautiful thing to see how that needle is turning. So tell us, what's the difference between having a homeboy and a real brotherhood? And is there a difference?
Yeah, I think so. So for me, I think there's probably three categories: acquaintances, friends, and brothers. Now, I don't expect the same thing out of all of those groups. Acquaintances, I don't really expect nothing from you. We're cordial. We say hi and bye. I may we may hang out. You know what I mean? It's cool. You know what I mean? It's no bad nothing there. That's fine. Friends, I expect that uh, they are my friend in different ways. Meaning that some people are your friend because they're your friend that you can talk to. Sometimes you have a friend that's your friend that because they always got your back. This other one is a friend that you feel like you help them. You know what I mean? You sow onto them or whatever, and maybe they're almost like a mentee or whatever in a way. But like when I say somebody is your friend, that's somebody that they'll most likely support you. They most likely, you know what I mean, have good things to say about you. They probably won't, you know, typically let people just talk crazy about you or whatever. They'll stand up for you. You know what I mean? Like, no, that's a good dude, such and such and such. You know what I mean? But I think your brother is someone like, man, I got your back no matter what. You know what I mean? If you are stranded somewhere at 3 o'clock in the morning, I got you. You know what I'm
Oh, that's
saying?
a brother.
Yeah, somebody that man, if I came to them in tears because of something happened, like they're not gonna judge me, you know what I'm saying? They're gonna be there for me to try to, help cheer me up. You know what I mean? They'll tell me when I'm wrong. You know what I mean? They have your best interest at heart. You know what I mean? And like if there's times when the guys that I could like to a certain degree, I'm only gonna tell you so much or try to intervene in certain situations so much when I'm your friend because I'm like, well, I don't want to tell them what to do. You know what I'm saying? Like I might give you some advice if you want it, if you'll listen to it, but I won't tell you what to do. My brother, I'm gonna tell you what to do. I'm gonna be like, man, that's crazy. What are you doing? Stop, man, leave her alone. What are you doing? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, why would you
Yeah.
do that? Like, I can talk to you on a much different level. And if I need $10,000, you'd be like, I got you. I know that sounds crazy to some people, but me and my friends are kind of like that. Like, I may need $5,000, but I'm gonna pay them back. You know what I'm saying? If I do that, not everybody gonna pay you back, and don't ask me for $5,000
That's
if you don't
not-
think about it. But like, but I'm just saying, like some stuff like that happens. You know what I'm saying? Once I had you know, a friend of mine that at the time we were brothers at the time, I thought. But really, to be honest, like I was his brother, but he wasn't mine. Like I was his friend, but he really wasn't mine. I found out later. But
Okay.
because I'm the kind of person I am, if I commit to being your brother, you know what I mean? Like his wife had uh, the car that got broken into. They stole all the wallet, all the money, all the stuff, and he was away, at National Guard duty and stuff like that. So me and another brother in the group, we was like, okay, well, tell her to go, to Western Union. We're gonna wire. I'm gonna wire 1,000. He was going. My other friend was gonna wire 1,000. Don't worry about it. You don't got to worry about it while you out there, man. Just go ahead and take care of whatever responsibility you got. We got your kids, man. Like that's a brother. You know what I mean?
That's a brother. That's a brother.
That's a brother. You know, your friends are like,
The
man, I'll
friend's
be
like, I'm gonna
praying
pray
for
for
you.
you. I'm gonna pray.
Right. Like, man, that's tough. Man, I know the Lord gonna make
Pray
a
for you.
way.
I ain't the
You know,
ram. I ain't the ram, but I'm gonna pray for
I ain't
you.
the way, but he gonna make
I
a
ain't the
way.
ram in the bush, but I'm
Right, right. So, but yeah, man. But going to the betrayal thing, like that's what happened with that situation, and I was just like, wow. So, I'm not one to quick to be everybody brag on their cutoff game, but that one hurt. You know what I
yeah,
mean? That one
absolutely.
hurt. But I'm just glad God had other brothers, around for me and everything. So I'll say this: if you have one of them
That
in
part
your lifetime,
in your
you are a
life.
blessed person. You really are.
Yeah. And so it sounds like to me, brotherhood holds you accountable. They love you. They hold you accountable without tearing you down. They're gonna get you together. They're gonna get you
Hmm.
together because of that love. So because you experienced that betrayal, what does true loyalty between brothers look like?
Um, you know, there's just certain things I'm not gonna do. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would never make a pass at your wife. I would never take advantage of you in a business deal or anything like that. In fact, the house that I told you some friends of mine renovated, one of the guys didn't have enough money, but I was like, hey, you my brother, you gonna be in it. I'm gonna front the money for you. You get to keep all the profit. All you gotta do is pay me back the initial money that I put in for you. You get to keep it all the rest. You know what I'm saying? Like that's something a brother would do
That's
because I
a-
want to see you do well. I don't
yeah.
even want to succeed and not see you succeed with me.
Mm,
If I eat, we gonna eat together. Like that's brotherhood to me. And so like I would want somebody who feels the same. And so this other friend that betrayed me or whatever, he was talking about, how much he longs for that kind of, brotherhood and stuff. This was earlier on, you know what I
okay.
mean? And so we
This
let
was
him in the group.
before the betrayal. This was
This
before.
before the trail. We let
Okay.
him in the group and everything like that. But I was like, man, you don't even know how to be friends. It's like to talk about brothers. You don't know the meaning. You don't understand the concept. Like he the kind of guy where like I remember like on just like if there was a small okay, so I gave him some advice because my you know uh background was in finance. That's my expertise. So I saved him like $40,000 in taxes. So there was this car that, I needed to get my wife a car, and it was this Benz, or whatever, and he was selling the Benz, you know what I mean? And he's does well, you know what I mean? He got a Bentley, you know what I mean? So this was a extra car that they
Okay.
was sitting that he ain't gonna use, so whatever. And I had spent like 20 grand that month because I was had a lot going on and I had to travel from Dallas to Cleveland to Atlanta because I had become the guardian for my aunt who had an aneurysm. My father was sick, and I just had a lot going on. And so I was like, look, I'm $500 short of what you want to sell the car for. Will you give it to me for that? Because I do need to get a car for my wife, or whatever. So he was kind of like, okay, after a while, first he had to call me back, and he was like, "Tell you what, never mind, don't worry about it." I said, I'll give you all of it. I called my other for real brother and said, "Hey man, I need $500 till next week or whenever." So he gave it to me, and I paid the guy. But I was like, I'll never do business with that dude again. I was like, because for me, you know, I would give you my kidney. You know, you would sell me your kidney. You know what I mean? Like you don't understand brotherhood at all. So I will say this: if you understand brotherhood, then I'll be your brother. You know what I mean? And that's what. But if you don't understand it, you don't get the concept. Because it's beyond loyalty. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's for me, that is like the highest standard of friendship that you can have. And some people are not ready for that. And you can't even be mad. You know why? You can't make people be something they not, and you can't expect something out of people who don't have that capacity. He just don't have that capacity.
Yeah.
I'm a gallon capacity person, and he's, a quart or a cup person. And so it's like, okay, I at least expect a certain amount. You got to at least be a quart, maybe, or a half a
Uh-uh.
gallon or something, or else, you know what I'm saying? I feel like, man, this is a one-sided friendship. So no, I don't want that. I don't want that. You know.
Yeah. I have a story about you that
Oh,
I want to
geez.
share because it's a great story because you are consistent. You are constant, no pun intended, my last name. I remember, so back when we were in Cleveland, and it had just brought tears to my eyes. And so this is when I had to remember when I was doing my Shekinah Glory News,
Absolutely.
a magazine before this is way before the internet hit. This was still people still buying magazines at the store. And then,
Right.
I used to do my relationship summit at the hotel. And you were doing your promotion, you promoter, your marketing. And at that time, I think you had charged me like, I don't know, $800 to do all the marketing. And this is when you was putting flyers on the cars. You was doing my branding then. And I
Hmm.
gave you a deposit. And the day of the event, I had the other half and I had it in the envelope. And you said, hey, Darlene, did you get the amount of people you wanted? Because my goal, I think, was like 100 people, but I think 50 people, a
Hmm.
little over 50 people showed up.
Hmm.
And I was like, well, no, my goal was 100. And I said, but 50 people, I was like, half showed up. I mean, I'm like, that's good. But I know, that's cool. And I gave you the envelope. I said, here's the rest of your money. And you
Hmm.
did not take it. You said, no, keep it. You said, keep it because I feel like I didn't do my job. And I looked at you because who in the heck does that? And I was like, I mean, I looked at you and I was like, no. And you was like, nope. You was like, the money you gave me, that's fine. You said keep that for your business. And I remember I still get emotional when I have told this story to people in terms of integrity. I was like, don't nobody do that. And I said that just shows a person's character. And I remember telling my husband, because my husband looked at me like, what's wrong? Why you got tears in your eyes? And I was like, let me just tell you what Mike, I was like, and I told my husband, I was like, babe, anything he ever need in life, I don't care what
Oh.
he's doing. I was like, we gonna help him. I said he can call and be like, I only got $5 in my pocket. I need my rent paid. And this is before wifey, y'all. So don't get tripping. We going way back to like 2002, 2003. And I was just like, who does that? I was like, babe, that's a man, a character. Nobody does that at all. You probably don't even remember. But I was just like, yeah, but John Michael Cole, what you need? What you need? You doing J
You know
song?
what?
But I
I
just
remember
wanted to
the
share
event.
that with you.
I remember the event because I want to say it was like at Beechwood, maybe.
It was in Beechwood. It was in Beechwood.
Okay, I remember the event, but I don't remember that part. But that I feel like integrity is huge. And but to be honest, you know what I mean? I think that may have been really early on in our
It
friendship
was
because I'm thinking
it was
like, why did
earlier
I
in our
charge her?
friendship.
Why did I even charge her? But like I really, for my people though, I want us to all come up at the same time. Like I'm not I I I've never been one where, I'm just gonna try to take advantage of people, because I feel like
Never.
God uh he looks and he sees and he knows. And sometimes when you need it the most, that's when God will bring somebody to help you. You know what I mean? So I think it's important. My wife just brought this up yesterday. We was in Vegas, man, and we was in
Y'all
this.
have fun?
We did have fun, but not as much as we could have, I guess. Let her tell it. Because when we got in this cab and somebody had left their wallet in there, and they had $2,500 in it, all hundreds. You know what I mean? And So if I knew if I get his wallet to the cab driver, he's just gonna take
And
this money out and it's gone.
it's gone.
So, I was like, all right, well, I said, well, I'm gonna see if I can find this person or whatever. And we ended up finding the person, and she came in and she got the money. She was like, "Oh, thank you so much," or whatever. And my wife was like, hmm. She was like, that 25. Like, we ain't gonna find her. I was like, let's try to find. We ain't gonna find her. So, but so I taught a Bible study, and I was telling them in the Bible study, it was like, shh, I ain't that saved. I was just like, but I
Wow.
said, but really, you would have wanted somebody to do that for you, and maybe I'll be doing too much. I don't know. But my wife understood. She was like, "No, you're right. I'm just saying." You know what I mean? She was like, "I'm just saying a lot of people wouldn't have did that." But I mean, I feel like every time I've been really in trouble, and thank you, Lord, because I needed to hear this right now, or had it said tough situations, God has always rescued me, come through for me. I've
Yes.
had moments where I needed something bad, and somebody will just say, God told me to do this for you, or whatever the case may be. And so, I thank God for that.
No, you are definitely a man of integrity. So with our wrap-up question, how can the older men our pour into our younger men so we can strengthen our community as a whole? What does that vision look like? What does that look like?
So one of the biggest things think we need is mentorship. And I think that really every person should have a person that they're mentored by. They should have peer mentors that are on the same level, and then they should be mentoring somebody else. Okay. And especially if you're an older man, though, you may not have a mentor anymore. You might have outgrown having a mentor, but you definitely have to pour in. And so when we talk about that, it kind of goes to legacy and all of that kind of stuff too. Because what ends up happening is the older you get, and I can tell you this as a person that's middle aged now. When you become middle aged, you start thinking about what have I done. Where am I at currently compared to what I wanted to be, where I wanted to be, and what do I want to leave? Because when you're a younger man, you're thinking about what all I want to get. You know what I mean? But when you get older, you're thinking about what do I leave? And so like, when you're younger, you're like Timothy, you know what I mean? And you need a coach like a Paul. But when you're Paul, you need a Timothy because you need somebody to take on all of the stuff that you learned so that it doesn't die with you. You know what I mean? And so there's value in that. And so I think that older men have a lot to offer. My father used to say, "I'm a coach now. Like I'm not a player on
Yeah.
the field anymore, but I'm a coach, and I'm just here to help all the players, all the not and I don't mean players, you know what I mean, but
Right.
like what I mean, but all of the guys that are in the game that are doing what they need to do, and so there's a whole lot of wisdom that older men have from experience that you don't get just by book knowledge when you're a younger person. Okay. So that's one of the things that I think is very valuable too. I know sometimes, older people, you feel like they get into long stories or whatever, but there's wisdom in those stories. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
then, I think the younger person has a responsibility to take care of the older ones, like the older ones took care of them when they're younger. But I think the older men definitely have the ability to group some young people together and to be able to mentor them because that's one of the things that is most needed right now. Why? Because a lot of men haven't had fathers. Why? Because a lot of men haven't had mentors in business. Why? Because a lot of men haven't had even brotherhoods that they could lean on or bigger brothers that they could lean on. And so there's a man out there that's thirsty for that. How do I know? Because when you think about all of the people that join fraternities and all of that and stuff, one of the biggest things they want is a brotherhood, but they also want the ability to be able to have peer mentors or peers. They also want to have the ability to be poured into, and then they want to be able to pour into somebody else, you know what I mean? And so pouring into somebody else can look like what I'm doing in the community, you know what I mean? But you got to have somebody who's seasoned and older to help you, you know what I mean, through this thing called life, because it is complicated and complex and it's hard. And I don't think men have enough outlets. We usually keep what we're going through or struggling with inside when there's an older man who can help you through. And I'll say this, I was divorced once, and before I married my wife, I was divorced. And, one of the things that helped me out a lot was my father was divorced once. He got married when he was really young, and he had us, later when he married my mom, like way later. But him sharing some things with me about that helped me tremendously because I felt like one, I'm not the only one. You get it, you get me. You know what I mean? And I think that also, whether men admit it or not, they need validation from older men. And what they do is, it men need other men to say, I respect you as a man. They
Mm,
need that. That's what masonry gives people. That's what the fraternities are giving people. And that's what gangs are giving people. And they need that. And they need that family and a place to know that you belong, But one of the things my father did before he left was huge to me too, that older men can do, especially with your sons. He prayed for me like Jacob prayed for his sons and like laid hands on me and said, Lord, everything that's good in me, I pray that you would bless my son with it. I pray that you would
mm,
bless him to be the one that take care and help the family. I pray that you would bless him with wealth so he can help the other people that around him. I pray that you would give him discernment and pray that you would give him wisdom and that you impart all of these things into him. And it meant a lot to me. You know what I mean? That he did that. It's called The Blessing. There's a book called The Blessing too that people could read, talking about a father, speaking over his children. And maybe you didn't have that biological father that could do that for you, but there's an older man somewhere that can look at you and validate you and lay hands on you and pray for you and say, you're going to be great. You're going to be successful. You're going to be a great man. You're going to be a great father. You're going to be able to make change in this world, make change in your community, and your name won't die when you die because the things that you've done, they're going to live on after you as well. And so, like, I think that's very important. We need more of that. If we have more of that, we'll see, our condition change as Black men, as families, as a people.
amen to that. I love that. Love that. Thank you for that. Um, Guys, so we've come to the end of this episode, but I love the gems that you've dropped. For those that are listening, drop in the comments. What do you think about brotherhood? Do you have one? Do you have a mentor? And share your experiences about being a part of a brotherhood. Amen. Until the
Amen.
next until the next time, thank you guys. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and follow us on all TSW Network platforms. Thank you. Thank you, John Michael.
Thank you for having me.